Hi there, and welcome back to the Government Transformation Show, the podcast of public sector changemakers. I'm Dami, and in today's episode, I sit down with Simon De Timary, Head of Data and AI at BJSS, who joined us at the recent Government Data Summit to co-host a discussion on predictive analytics. We'll talk over the opportunities in this space and how to make the best of your data estate, and how your organization can benefit from using predictive analytics for decision-making. I am joined today by Simon De Timary, Head of Data and AI at BJSS. Simon, could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, hi Demi, thanks for having me. As you said, I'm the Head of Data and AI for BJSS, so I look after capabilities in data and analytics space, capabilities around data engineering, data analysis, data science, and data architecture. And I'm responsible for defining our service offerings and making sure that the work we deliver to our clients is of the level of quality that we expect.
Fantastic. And could you answer a few questions about your personality, just so we can get the audience knowing you a little bit more? So could you tell us about your favorite piece of tech?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think my favorite piece of tech, what I'm most excited about at the moment is computer vision. There's so many applications that can be used in daily life, like providing automation, augmented decision making, predictive analytics. So, for instance, computer vision is used for expense classification, or for the digitization of paper forms, or for fault detection in public spaces. Like, if an asset in a train station isn't operating properly, can we use cameras in the station to identify that and remediate the situation quickly, or even for anomaly detection. So again, ensuring safety in public spaces when you identify suspicious behaviors, etc., through CCTV, for instance.
Really exciting technology. I did actually Google it since our last conversation, just so I could understand a little bit more. So computers are basically becoming almost as smart as human beings. It's crazy.
They can pick up things that human beings can't, some patterns that are indiscernible. But interestingly, they can also be spoofed in ways that human beings can't identify with filters on images. So it's a very fascinating field.
Absolutely. Some strengths and weaknesses there. As with most technology, there's always a way to use it and a way to abuse it. So could we talk about the best use of predictive analytics that you have seen?
Well, I think the best work I've seen in the space is some work that my colleagues have delivered at BJSS, which is actually using computer vision and predictive analytics to help create life. So we worked with a company called Care Fertility, which is the leading UK fertility clinic. And the premise was, can we use computer vision to select embryos that are that are more likely to come to term. So what we ended up doing with them is starting to automate some of the process of extracting features from those embryos, understanding when, where in their stage of development they are, and automating the process of recognizing this, so that can be fed into subsequent algorithms to help select which are the better embryos. So, I mean, this is obviously a field where even a 1% improvement just makes a massive difference in someone's life. So it's a very exciting place, literally creating life using technology.
Absolutely. That's amazing. Wow. It's amazing what technology can do now, honestly, even literally creating life. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about your early career. Could you share an anecdote about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I finished high school, I actually held a temp job in a shisha bar in Guatemala. I went on a year break, gap year. So I can basically make 30 different cocktails now. And then after that, I went into a degree in architecture for buildings. And from that point on, my career has been much more of a traditional consulting route, working for a big SI and then for BJSS now.
Amazing. Thank you so much. What a journey, honestly. From the shisha bar all the way to Head of Data and AI at BJSS. Inspirational for sure. And can we talk about some of the new capabilities around predictive analytics? So what can it do? What can it enable us to do that we haven't been able to do before, for example?
So predictive analytics is not a new field at all, or data science in general and machine learning are not new fields. The algorithms that we're using today were developed decades ago. What's really new today is the commoditization of cloud technologies and the availability of far higher computing resources than we used to. And so with the advance of GPUs and just the easy ways of serializing computers, it has just become a possibility now to do predictive analytics at a much higher scale and getting real-time results.
Amazing. And could you tell us a bit more about your current role and how BJSS works with the UK public sector?
Yeah, so as I said, I lead the data and AI practice. We've split that practice in four key capabilities: data engineering, data science, data analysis, and data architecture. And we offer end-to-end data services from data strategy and governance all the way to building enterprise data platform, which is our bread and butter, data science solutions and data analytics and visualization. And we also offer data managed services for our customers. So we started our work in the public sector about 10 years ago. We worked with the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office at the time to deliver UK first, a critical service built using open source code. It's called the Chris Hub. That service is still live today. And since that time, we've worked with a number of ministerial departments, executive agencies, arm's length bodies, etc. We've also been a delivery partner of the Home Office for 5 years now, worked in the immigration technology portfolio. We've delivered hundreds of concurrent statement of works through call of contracts. And we provided outcome delivery teams, resource augmentation, etc., in as flexible a manner as the Home Office required us to, and responded to their ever-changing priorities of the department. And so we've been instrumental in delivering things like the visa application case working system, the EU settlement system, and with its many integrations into other departments as well. And finally, we also have a very long-standing partnership with the NHS across NHS Digital, NHS England, and NHS Trusts. So we supported and led several of their critical programs of work. We've re-engineered Spine, moving into an open source product, and it now handles 1.6 billion transactions in a month. So it's a very, very high performance system, and is connecting primary and secondary care institutions. We've implemented the EU referral system, ERS, which enables referrals from primary care to secondary care. And we've migrated it to the public cloud. It's the largest public cloud in healthcare. And finally, we've co-delivered the NHS app, which was a very interesting exercise in user research, because obviously it needs to cater for so many different types of demographics, and people are non-digital natives. So the user research piece took months, and it was a very high priority on the government's agenda at the time.
Amazing. The NHS app. So literally everybody has been interacting with BJSS products and had known about it. That's amazing. Simon, could you please share some things that you talked about on the Predictive Analytics Summit Roundtable?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things the government officials asked us to talk about during the roundtable is to share some of our experience. So they were very open about sharing some of the work they'd done in predictive analytics, and it almost acted as a bit of a therapy session for some of the attendees. It seemed to help them to see that others were facing similar challenges, and it was nice to see that they could share some of the use cases they worked on. And so they asked me to share some of what's been done in the industry, or what's been done in our line of work, and what our experience as a supplier has been. So we talked about, for instance, a document classification we built for a law firm to help identify which documents belong to which type of sorry, redo that. So we talked about a document classification and content search solution for a law firm. So in the case of a carve out, when they're trying to when they're being hired to help prepare the sale of a part of an organization, they need to make sure that they provide all the documentation required to conduct due diligence, and that's actually very time consuming and manual process today. So building that automation into it and using artificial intelligence to help identify which documents are which types was really helpful. And then we also did some work. We talked about the work we've done for national highways, where we built the data as a service platform for them, which is a very large scale data platform capable of ingesting very, very large amounts of data, and was helping break organizational data silos within national highways, which is obviously a massive organization. They like to say they manage the big roads in England, and then enabling their data journey towards becoming more data driven. And we also talked about the work we did for NHSD, the risk stratification piece. So in the peak of COVID, we deployed the Q-COVID algorithm on AWS, and we built a wizard-style application to help GPs run their patient through the algorithm and help them understand, whether their patients were at risk. And then quickly that challenge became more of can we do this more proactively before patients go and reach out to their GPs? And so we ran it on the entire population of England. But obviously, when you do something like this, you need to be very cautious of GDPR requirements. So making sure that GDPR states very clearly that you can only use personal information if there's a valid reason for it. So one of the things we did is run a very simple algorithm to exclude people that were at no risk, based on demographics, based on their medical conditions, so that we didn't have to run the algorithm on about 40% of the population and only ran it on the 60% for which we had doubt. So it was not only far more efficient computationally, but it also meant that we were compliant with the GDPR, and that helped identify 1.7 million additional people to put on the self-isolation list.
Wow, that's a big number. So that's obviously saved a lot of time and resources in the department as well,
Absolutely.
knowing that you don't have to survey 40%. Absolutely. So can we talk about your main takes on how government organizations currently manage and use predictive analytics before we then go on to 3 tips of how they can action getting started on that journey and improving performance and capability?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was very clear following Government Data Summit that a lot of organizations remain focused on making sure that their data is in the usable state first. And this is obviously the right thing to do. Predictive analytics and data science in general only works if you have data that you can trust. However, we've seen that a lot of them actually do experiment with predictive analytics in specific areas where the data is already available, and they have varying levels of expertise, as you would expect. So most of them seem to be fairly early in their journey, but conducted some really promising experiments and rolled out some systems in production. So I can't really reveal things that I shouldn't, but really 2 key topics, 2 families of solutions that we talked about is around churn modeling. So identifying when a customer is at risk of dropping out of a process. And if you can predict when they're at risk of dropping out of a process, then you can nudge them to kind of complete that process and identify ways to engage and bring them back within that process. And then fraud detection is obviously a very important topic. And obviously my co-host looked after fraud detection and fraud in general. So, when talked about fraud that might be related to the energy scheme, for instance, that's been rolled out by the government now, benefit fraud, tax fraud, COVID relief fraud, etc. Lots of quite public topics at the moment.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. So in terms of 3 tips that they could get started on to improve performance and capability, what would they be if you could outline them for us?
Yeah, I think the main tip would really be to get started. So at BJSS, we're real fans of strategy by doing. It's very easy to spend weeks and weeks elaborating your strategy for data science and predictive analytics. But you could also just start small, get value quickly, and start planning for the future while you're building your first solutions, your first capability. A key tip is do not try to boil the ocean. Identify a very specific use case, build a technical capability to support that specific use case. Don't try to account for every possible option, and then iterate once you've got that first success, and then expand your capability to support other use cases over time. We recommend to use cloud solutions. They enable organizations to scale far more easily and focus on outcomes rather than managing and setting up their infrastructure. And then rely on industry to help shape the strategy. Don't try to do it alone. There's an organization like BJSS that can obviously help and have a lot of experience in this. And then finally, perhaps not so much a tip, but more of a reflection on the current state. The days of the ivory tower data scientist are over. A data scientist is no longer the person working in their garage and building the new algorithm from scratch. They now work in very close collaboration with the business, with other data specialists, and that's why we've got so much more diversity in titles with data in it, because they're areas of specialism, and then they help translate the business pain points into solutions utilizing data science.
Amazing. Thank you for that answer. Definitely some actionable tips for every government organization to adopt there. So just lastly, did you hear or learn anything interesting from our community of civil servants at the summit?
Yes, I think one of the things that was most exciting about it was that, it's a huge community of data enthusiasts, and everyone just wanted to share their experience and learn from one another. We heard stories from Canada, which were quite interesting to see how they're doing over the pond. And then we were able to hear some details around some very advanced technologies as well, around used in some of the departments there. Personally, one of the things I enjoyed very much was the pub conversation the day before with the CVO of Registers of Scotland, and the very unique challenges that holding 500-year-old documents that aren't even written in English, are handwritten in Old Gaelic. It's quite fascinating to see. Well, how do you digitize that? How do you keep hold of this? And then what we really heard was that interoperability and data sharing are huge areas of interest, and one of the main challenges faced by these organizations. So what's led, being at the Government Data Summit has led us to then decide to invite some of our public sector customers to some working groups to discuss some of these challenges around interoperability, data sharing, and the risks and the risk of sharing that data, but also the risk of not sharing it, and seeing how we can identify solutions and better practice from the ground up.
So Simon, you joined us at the Government Data Summit to co-host a discussion on predictive analytics. Could you tell us why this topic is so important to BJSS?
I think it's a historic reason for us. Our data capability was founded about 8 years ago when we hired our first data scientist. So really our data community started off of data science. And back then there was all the hype and promise of AI. So it was really at the peak of inflated expectations on the Gartner hype curve. And we're able to claim early victories by delivering very complex predictive analytics solution into production, whereas others at the point were just experimenting with POCs. So it's really by applying our engineering principles and the fact that we've got this strength and discipline around engineering to data science, and we're able to deliver production grade solutions very early on. But then we found out that as organizations evolved and realized that their state of their data didn't really support all of their data science aspirations, we started branching out as well, and starting with engineering and data engineering, data analysis, and data architecture. But we're at the state now we can see that technologies and organizations continue to mature, and with the current economic climate, there's so many opportunities to use predictive analytics for cost savings and doing more with less, targeting how you use your resources, recovering fraud from fraud, powering interoperability, etc. So they're definitely very, very keen to continue to work in predictive analytics and make sure that we're able to help government organizations with that.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that answer. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our community of civil servants?
I would just encourage people to join the Government Data Summit. I thought it was a very refreshing event that day. Obviously, choose a day when the PM doesn't resign next time. But it was a very, very nice atmosphere, very open, very relaxed, and very engaging as well. Everyone was there as a contributor, not just as an attendee. So I think there was a different mentality, and the level of our contributors was really, really high.
Absolutely. We do love that everybody comes with a piece to share and a piece to learn, and it's a very collaborative day. So thank you so much, Simon, for joining me on the Government Transformation Show. There's nothing left to say other than thank you so much for joining, and we'd love to have you back again soon.
Thank you so much, Danny. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks again to Simon for joining me for this episode. We had a great conversation there around the capabilities of computer vision and AI and using technology as an enabler to improve the citizen experience. Join us next time. We will be sitting with another public sector change maker. Until then, goodbye.